and we are going to start recording. We're waiting just on one more panelist, so just hold the line for one moment. So thank you and welcome to our second annual virtual nursing recruitment panel with the Center for Career and Professional Development. My name is Cicely Pongigadet, and I'm the Associate Director here, working with our healthcare as well as our public health students as well as alumni. Today we have 6 health systems that are currently being represented. What I would like to do today is introduce each of them and their role. Dr. Goncalves is going to speak a little bit for a few moments about what we are, our focus today as we are doing this nursing recruitment panel. And then we will start going through some of the questions and information that you have all been prepared with in terms of these questions. But feel free throughout this panel, it's your time, and we hope that you use it to its fullest. So feel free to ask any questions that are that you're thinking. Again, if you are coming into the room, if you're not currently muted, just know the mics have been locked currently. So if you would like to ask a question and are unable to unmute yourself, that you can always put something in the chat box. So to get us started today, I'm just going to go through the health system introductions. From overview, we are having Partners Healthcare, Brigham and Women's Hospital. We have Jane Deharutic, and what I'd like to do is, Jane, if you want, I'm going to do an introduction of everybody's name, and then I'll turn it back to you if you'd like to do your introduction now. I know we were having some technical difficulties with your audio. Is it working if you want to do an introduction now?
Sure, yeah. Can you hear me fine?
Yes, yes.
Perfect.
Okay.
All right. Yes, so my name is Jane. I am a talent acquisition partner at Brigham and Women's Hospital. My portfolio is mostly ambulatory nursing. I personally do not hire newly licensed nurses, new grads, but I do know a lot about it. So I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Perfect. Thank you, Jane.
Yeah, absolutely.
Next, we have Hartford Healthcare. First up, we have Cheryl Delva, who is the recruiter currently with Hartford Healthcare and focuses with our St. Vincent's Medical Center location.
Yes, hi. So nice to see so many faces. Yeah, as you know, we need nurses in our medical facilities, and St. Vincent's says on behalf of actually Hartford Healthcare, we're always looking for new grads, also experienced registered nurses. So definitely take a look at our website as far as like our openings. We do hire year round, mostly around May, and then we have people take their NCLEX and start in August, but we do make opportunities available throughout the year for others who have not secured a regular full-time position. My colleague, Peggy Dwyer, who's a nurse manager, should probably speak next in regards to the float pool specifically and for the nursing service office. But again, we're always looking. And so we look forward to receiving your resume, even for some of our nurse tech positions that we have for nurses currently enrolled in a nursing program.
Wonderful.
Hmm?
Wonderful, thank you. Peggy, would you like to just introduce yourself briefly? I know Cheryl did a little abbreviation. And Dr.
Absolutely.
Goncalves, I'm going to come back to you just because we were having some technical difficulties. So after the introductions, I'll come back. And I appreciate everyone's patience today.
My name's Peggy Dwyer. I am so happy to participate in this career fair today. I am the nurse manager of the float department and the nursing service office, which does the staffing and the house supervisors at St. Vincent's Medical Center. We are Hartford Healthcare's Fairfield region, and I have been with St. Vincent's for 12 years. Your very own Dr. Goncalves hired me 12 years ago. Nursing was a second career for me. I had a 25+ year career in business in the hospitality, restaurant, and import and exports, and then became a nurse. So as the manager now of the float department, I have currently 60 nurses and about 50 nursing assistants. I always have nursing positions available. I am the pipeline for the medical center, bringing nurses into the organization and orienting them throughout the medical center. I have nurses, from graduate nurses up to 40 years experience, who work for me. Because of the size of the department, I can offer a lot of flexibility to nurses. And it's a great opportunity to start that you can come in, learn the medical center, and then find a specialty that is something you want to pursue, and then transfer out of the department to pursue your specialty. Hartford Healthcare is one of the largest systems in Connecticut. We are a magnet hospital going for our third redesignation, and I love being a nurse at St. Vincent's.
Wonderful. Thank you, Peggy. Next, we're traveling down the pike down to Hackensack Meridian Health. And today we have Danielle Sicaranza, who's going to speak a little bit. She is part of the nurse recruitment team and a talent selection specialist. So she's going to do a quick introduction.
Hello, everyone. Yes, I am Danielle Sicaranza. I am a talent acquisition assistant or selection specialist on the nurse recruitment team at Hackensack Meridian Health. I provide assistance to our nurse recruiters and just recently became involved with our nurse residency program. A little bit about Hackensack Meridian Health, just a brief overview. We are a leading not-for-profit healthcare organization based in New Jersey. We consist of about 17 hospitals, including 3 academic medical centers. We have 2 children's hospitals. We have 3 academic, we have the 9 community hospitals, we have 2 rehabilitation hospitals, and more than 450 patient care sites. So I look forward to speaking with you all today and providing you with a little more information about our nurse residency program.
Wonderful. Thank you, Danielle. Next, we have with Northwell Health, we have Ellen Lorenz. She is our program director for workforce readiness.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Always so happy to be at Sacred Heart. Thank you so much for inviting me. Just Northwell Health is, for those of you that don't know about us, we are 23 hospitals in the New York area. We have what I like to say real estate from the tip of Eastern Long Island, all across Long Island, through Queens, through New York City and Staten Island and Westchester. We have 23 hospitals, 9 are magnet, the rest are on the journey to become magnet. We hire lots of new nurses. I think we're up to 18,000 nurses that we employ. We also have 800 faculty practices. Part of my role, I'm a registered nurse that works for a division of talent acquisition called Workforce Readiness. We develop pipelines for hire and develop relationships with schools of nursing. We also assist individuals with disabilities and also veterans. So again, very happy to be here today and answer your questions. I also just, many of you were in our nurse extern program this summer. And we also, I also hire for our nursing fellowship programs, and we also have our nurse residency programs, just to let you know that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And last but not least is Yale New Haven Health. We have 2 folks from there. We're going to start with Chuck Aprea, who his role is Senior Talent Acquisition Partner and a nurse recruiter with our Yale New Haven Hospital location.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. First of all, thank you for allowing me to take time out of your busy day, because the student role, and in particular, the graduate nurse role, is probably the hardest role you'll ever have in your life. So bear with it. There's a definite light at the end of the tunnel for the seniors, and you're getting there, and it's all worth it. Having gone through it myself 39 years ago, I'm actually a nurse for 39 years. It was all well worth it, so hang in there. I'm here to talk about Yale New Haven Health, which is really a combination of 5 different hospitals spanning the shoreline from one end of the state to the other. And we all have graduate nurse positions as well. And we hire grads in just about every specialty, but don't shortchange yourself with just some general medical, some general surgical. Nothing wrong with starting out small and growing. You all have 40 years to work. So eventually you will get into all of those specialties that you want to get into. And my partner in crime, Carolyn Butler, is also a talent acquisition partner, and she does primarily Bridgeport Hospital and Milford Hospital recruitment. And she, she's saying probably the same thing I am. Carolyn, I don't know if you want to add in anything, but we do have a lot of opportunity for grads. They do like the fast-paced, research-based, evidence practice-based that is done here at Yale New Haven Health. We have a residency, we have a very good orientation. We'll go through all of that. You're going to get a lot of information, but feel free to, at any point, reach out to Carolyn or I if you have specific questions and want to explore something specific. We're here to help. As all of the other healthcare systems on this panel are, we're all here to assist you transitioning into a wonderful, rewarding profession.
I'll just say hello and thank you for having us. This is one of my favorite panels and I look forward to when it's back in person.
Thank you so much. And just so everyone knows, Carolyn Butler is also with Yale New Haven Health. Her focus, again, is with Bridgeport Hospitals. And so before we get into any of the questions, I appreciate Dr. Sue Goncalves for your patience as we did an introduction to all of our panelists today. If you wanted a few moments of time to speak about today's second annual virtual nursing recruiter panel, we're hoping to be in person sooner rather than later. And we are here in Career Services starting to open up some of our events and having employers come on site. So we'd love to have you all come in person if you feel comfortable and have the time.
Thank you. Thank you. I am not going to speak as long as we normally would because we lost a half an hour there, and this is about the students. I just want to say thank you. This is my 8th career fair that we've been doing, and I just want to thank our career development for always supporting us as well as our partners. This is so wonderful and individualized for the SHU students. We can go out to conferences and fairs, and we are vying with every other university trying to get your attention, ask our questions. You have taken your time to come to us, given us the individualized care. So I want to very quickly turn it over to the students every day. So these are all seniors. I tell them every week there's light at the end of the tunnel. They don't believe me yet, but it's there. They've got 7 months left, and we talk about jobs and the nursing shortage and how that's good, how it's bad, what lies ahead. And I want to just turn it right over to you and give them an opportunity to ask questions. Their biggest questions are, I believe, and we'll let them take over, but when's the best time to apply? How can they stand out from the rest? They are eager and ready. They've worked hard for 4 years, and I just can't thank the 6 panelists that are here today for your dedication and your time to come speak to us. So I thank you very much, and I will turn it right over to the Cecily and then the students.
Thank you so much. And thank you again, as Dr. Goncalves said, we appreciate your time today. I think the biggest question I'd like to start out with as the students are getting acclimated is really just looking at with these students in their senior year. I know, again, a lot of you had talked about the fellowships and the nurse residency programs that are offered within your organization, as well as new grad programs. If you could just talk for a few moments, and whoever feels most comfortable to answer the question first, because our panel is large, I will let you explain the difference in your organization between a new grad hire and a nurse resident, as well as the fellowship programs that are offered within your health system. and then also partnering the timing that they should start to look to recruit on that.
I can speak for St. Vincent's. Last year, we had our first year of having a nurse residency program. We completed 1 year, and everybody who participated in this program got so much benefit out of it. It meets once a month. All of our new grad hires go into this program, and you are mentored and coached for 1 year. Meanwhile, you are working on the floor and learning and refining your basic nursing skills. We have found that this residency program has helped in the nurse satisfaction and in retention for us. It truly has been a benefit for everybody involved, and we are excited to go into our second year. We do hire year-round. We have 2 starts to our nurse residency program. One is in February and the other is in August. However, if we do have a month where we have a high number of new grad nurses, we will add in a 3rd cohort to accommodate all of our new hires.
Thank you, Peggy.
I could jump in. And similar to what my colleague Peggy has said, at Yale New Haven Health, we also have a residency program that is a full year length. It is a paid experience, so you get paid to attend residency. But our residency is year round. So if you're hired in June, then you finish your residency the following June. If you're hired in October, then you finish your residency the following October. So there isn't it isn't connected with a specific service line or specialty. It's connected with the entry into practice clinician. So all grads enter our residency program. So anytime that you are hired into the hospital, any one of the 5 delivery networks, you would then hook up with that particular residency program. So it's not specific to a job. You don't apply specifically to the residency program. It's a condition of employment.
Okay, thank you. And Jane, what about with your organization? I know you had mentioned a lot with the ambulatory recruitment efforts.
Yes, so pretty much same as everyone. It is a 4-hour monthly program. Every single newly licensed nurse or nurse who doesn't have acute care experience would automatically go through our residency program. It is also for 1 year. It is unit oriented. So with that being said, most likely some things would be tweaked in that residency program, depending on what department you hired in. And we do hire newly licensed nurses year round. Some of the departments only hire newly licensed nurses, and those are, I have them all down. So it's a medical, surgical, oncology float pool, medical intermediate, regular float pool, and very often just regular specialty departments. They would post up to 5 or 10 positions specifically for newly licensed nurses. So it doesn't have any time frame. Usually it just comes in waves, to be honest. So let's say with the emergency department, it is quarterly. Each quarter they would switch it up a little. So they would do 1 quarter just for the newly licensed nurses, and the next one would be for experienced nurses. So no specific time when we hire newly licensed nurses, pretty much. It's all year round.
Okay, thank you. Danielle, what about over in Hackensack, New Jersey?
So our residency program, like most, are 1 year in length also. We are unit-based as well. So whichever unit that you express your interest in, if it meets the needs of the hospital and our nurse managers, that's the unit you'll be hired into. And work there paid alongside the residency program. Again, 1 year in length. If you start in June, you'll end in June. April, you'll end in April. We are hiring all year. We have multiple starts. So the only suggestion that I can give to you is to apply closer to graduation date. That's when we'll take a look at your applications and kind of get you moving forward with the program. We have experience days within our program where, say you are working on a telemetry unit, you have the opportunity to network and go into other units and kind of get a feel for what they do, a little more respect and understanding of what goes on there. And, you know, maybe a unit that's a long-term goal for you. And you kind of just want to test the waters there. We require our new grads to work 3 12-hour shifts a week. And we have mandatory 12-hour lecture days once a month with 2 simulation labs. They are only offered once a month, so they are mandatory.
Okay, thank you. And Ellen, would you be able to share a little bit about Northwell?
Sure. Really, almost every position for a new grad with less than 6 months of experience goes into our nurse residency program, and it's similar to much like the other sites. It's once a month. You meet as a cohort. We have orientation twice a month, so we hire all year round. Our fellowship program and our residency kind of run simultaneously, in that if you're hired into our fellowship, which are specialized training programs for critical care, the emergency department, pediatrics, oncology, and peri-op, they're part of the residency program as well.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Big question that has come up recently is, with COVID, how has that impacted your recruitment efforts?
I can start. I'm going to share just an experience I have, because I think it's important, can somewhat be tough. But what I've experienced during COVID, and from what some feedback I've gotten for the nurse leadership, is that there's been a little bit more orientation that they see that's been needed, simply because some of the students didn't get to have on-site clinicals. So I'm only bringing that up so that I'm sure every organization here understands COVID and has been impacted in similar and different ways. But we are all here to support the new nurses. We would never have you come off orientation not feeling comfortable to take on assignments. So, I think what's great finally is most of you are finally back on site for your clinicals, so that's good. Give yourself a lot of credit. When you graduate, you're going to be very ready for your NCLEX. And another thing I'll share is, because of COVID, and I really truly think this is because of COVID, I saw quite a few new grads unsuccessful with their NCLEX on the first try. But I want to share that because I don't want you to be discouraged. I want you to know that the test is hard, and you've been through school during a time that's been unprecedented. And at least specifically to Yale New Haven Health, we never would rescind an offer because you didn't pass your NCLEX on the first try. We haven't done that once, and every single person that it has happened to this year did pass on the second try, and they have all started. So I'm saying that to, understand that you have been through a difficult time in your nursing school, but you are at the end of the tunnel, and it will happen. And one thing we didn't speak to is we also have rolling starts. Typically for December grads, we've already been hiring December grads through the end of August. Actually, they started applying. For May grads, we see applications as early as January, and we are able to have you interview and even accept an offer, knowing that you won't be starting until July or August. So, and for August grads, I'm not sure if anyone is on here, but they typically start applying beginning of the summer. With starts for May grads, usually July or August grads, October, November, and then anyone in December is usually February or March for starts.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. What about with some of the other health systems? Anything that stands out, Cheryl, maybe with Hartford Healthcare?
As far as COVID is concerned, I do miss the job fairs in person, so I have to say that, because I do miss going. But at the same time, please note that Hartford Healthcare does require you to have your COVID vaccine. So that's really important. Some people are not, they don't agree with that. So just to let you know, if you decide to work for the Hartford Healthcare system, that you will be required to have that to start. Also, if you are hired, like for instance, if you apply in May or June for an August start, once you pass your NCLEX, if you don't, we can push that back and maybe have you start as a graduate nurse hire instead. And then we'll give you a few more months to hopefully pass that as soon as you're able to get rescheduled. I know last year it was very difficult with a lot of people who were trying to get a date to take the exam, but this year it seems like it's a little bit more fluid, so a little bit easier for people to actually get that scheduled. So we do have some flexibility, we do understand. And again, I want to push that we do have some student nurse tech positions if you definitely want to get in and kind of get a feel of Hartford Healthcare. You know, specifically St. Vincent's. We have some great nurse managers and some great RNs and other colleagues who would be happy to, you know, work with you as you go on this journey to receive your RN license.
Can I just ask, before we continue with some of the health systems response on this, with that said, we've had some folks who are interested in the nursing, sort of that nurse tech position. Some organizations call it a PCA, PCT. And what are your thoughts with your health system if a student does come in that path as a junior or even that first semester of their senior year, maybe even earlier, depending on the program, because we offer, is that a guarantee that their position will turn into a full-time nurse position? Or does that mean they're just looked at as that specific nurse tech or PCA, PCT role?
Well, I definitely, a lot of the managers, since they know them, know their work, how they, you know, they perform and so forth. They get a very positive response. Now, we do make a lot of offers to student nurse techs, and Peggy can speak on that as well. But then it's, you know, if we make an offer to you for a regular, you know, RN position, it's sometimes the student who maybe is going to relocate or, you know, it could be any such personal situation that they decide maybe not to go with, you know, HHC. So really, it's not us, it's really the students, but we try to make everything available for them.
It is our hope that the student nurse tech position is an avenue to bring in these new nurses to us so that they can have the exposure to Hartford Healthcare and St. Vincent's, and then interview them for open positions. But as Cheryl said, sometimes they have other plans. They want to travel, go to another part of the country. But it is our hope that we can interview them and hire them.
Perfect. Perfect.
This is I think the number one question, and my students might be too shy to ask, is if you are a student nurse tech or patient care tech, would you get preference over, I used to call it an outsider because I was a manager. And obviously that's based on performance. And I've always told my students, you've already had your interview. If you're currently an employee, your attendance record, your professionalism, all of that, you've already had your interview. But would that give them the edge, so to speak, over an outsider, if you want to call it that?
I think so. I mean, it's like attempt to hire, I guess, you know. You come in, you work, you know, per diem, and you do well. You show enthusiasm, and you do, you know, you get along with your colleagues, and you do well with the patients. I think it's a great end. My daughter's in nursing school now, and you know, she does her clinicals up in, you know, in Arizona, and you know, they already promised her a job when she finishes. So, you know, this is her second career. She's only like, you know, in her 20s, but still, she went back to school to get a nursing degree after graduating from Fairfield University. So I just have to say, it definitely gives you a lot of visibility to a regular full-time position.
Thank you. And what about Chuck?
I would ditto what Shirley had said, that, you know, we had brought in over 60 students last January in this transitional bridge to practice, and many of them did remain within the hospital, not necessarily within the unit though. So, you know, the student, half of the battle when you're doing your clinical rotations is seeing those areas that you really would prefer not to work in. So I think if you were assigned, you know, orthopedics and really oncology is where you want to be. Well, you have your foot in the door in orthopedics, but that doesn't mean you have to go to orthopedics. My big concern with our students and all of our employees, because we have nursing students in the lab, we have them in observation roles, we have them in clinical tech roles, is the students really need to get their interests out early. So because you're an employee at any healthcare system, don't just take for granted that we're going to know you're going to want something. Make sure you're known. So by January, if you're an employee in one of the healthcare systems or any healthcare system, you really should be talking with folks saying, you know, I'm graduating in 6 months. I really want to work here. And then go to those areas and get your foot in before we start heavily recruiting externals.
Cecily, can I add one? Go
No,
ahead.
since you just mentioned that, I think that's the number one question, and I would never want to give my students any ill advice. So I think the next big question is, when should they apply? I told them, you know, like the week of Christmas to January 1st, no, because it could get lost in a void. Could you guys each maybe individually address that? When should they be applying? Because they're ready to rock and roll, their resumes are done, they can do it at any time, but when is the proper time to do so?
I would say right after the new year. Make sure that their cover letter is grammatically correct. There's no punctuation, spelling errors. Make sure, because that's your initial contact with the nurse manager, and having been a nurse manager, you know, that attention to detail plays a lot in my decision making. You know, be prepared to get in an interview. I don't know what we're going to be doing right now. Everything is Zoom, but who knows in January where we'll be. But if you want a specialty, I would say the beginning of January is ideal.
I as well would be looking at resumes in January, hoping to interview in February, and then putting the offers out. It takes some time for the background checks, and then your onboarding. And so you would know by, you know, maybe mid-April, you are secure in a job while you enjoy the rest of your college career. One thing I do want to mention, and I don't know if you know this, so when you are hired into a graduate nurse role, you have 90 days from your date of graduation to take your NCLEX. So it is not your date of hire, it is from the date you graduate. 90 days you must sit for your NCLEX.
Yeah, Peg, we actually offer a course 390, which is coming up in the spring, where they shepherd them through the process, the registering, what state they want it. So yes, that is totally covered, and they will be aware of that. So no worries. Thank you, though.
Mhm.
Ellen, could you speak a little bit with regards to your fellowship program at Northwell, and what are some of those key skills that you're looking for on the resume?
Well, the fellowship programs are offered 4 times a year. It's usually January, April, July, and October. The skills that we're looking for in our fellowship programs are, you know, these are specialized training programs. It's a lot of, you know, a big investment of resources in, you know, in the student, and, you know, you're investing a lot of time with us. So, you know, we really want people that are very excited and passionate about this specialty. I love when students, like, for example, if you're interested in critical care, if you've done your senior practicum or capstone in a critical care area, or the operating room, or oncology, you know, I really want somebody that has had exposure to those areas. You know, it's a combination of computer web-based training, lecture, being precepted, and, you know, simulation. So, you know, they're anywhere from 4 to about 9 months of training, depending on the program. So again, it's a big investment of resources in, you know, both our parts.
Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome.
Danielle, could you talk a little bit about those entry-level applicants that you're looking at? What stands out for you as you're reviewing hundreds upon hundreds of resumes that come through? Is it a style factor for you? I know Chuck had mentioned a little bit with regards to the grammar and the spelling, et cetera, but are there certain skill sets that really pop for you? Is there a certain format that you like to see?
I mean, we like a well-structured resume, grammar and, doesn't hurt. Good grammar doesn't hurt. We take a more holistic approach on how we source the resumes. I primarily source through majority of the resumes for our residency program. I just look for someone who is an all-around student, good academic standings, is involved with university activities, and those that have you don't have to have prior health experience. It's a positive. Those who list their preceptorships on the top of their resume, well structured, easy to read.
Perfect. Thank you. Jane, could you talk a little bit for the part of Partners Health? I know you represent the Brigham and Women's Hospital there. Could you talk a little bit from your perspective? What are the things that stand out on a resume with you?
Sure. If you don't mind, I first wanted to just go back quickly to the COVID question. What changed with the COVID? So one big thing that changed at the Brigham, we do not have in-person interviews right now with the department. So this is kind of big. If you would like to come in and see the department before accepting an offer, that's not an option right now. So the only way to interview with the department is online. We do hope that it's going to change soon. We almost had it go back to normal this beginning of September, but unfortunately with the new variant, we had to go back. Also, as it was mentioned before, and I've noticed the text in a chat, starting October 15th with a new COVID mandate that everyone has to be vaccinated upon their start date. So those are two big things that happened with the COVID. Now, coming to the question about what stands out on the resume. First, there's a few things that I would like to say about that. First of all, Brigham and Women's Hospital is an M&A hospital. So we are a union hospital. We do have a contract with the union. And one of the biggest things that we have to do because of that contract is that we have to prioritize internal candidates. So let's say if we post a position and then position expires in 10 days, first of all, we always look in at the internals. And then if an internal meets all of the requirements and whoever has more seniority hours, most likely they will be offered a position without even looking at externals. This is might be not the perfect way of doing things, but this is the union and this is what we do at the Brigham. So my main advice would be applying to a lot of positions that you meet qualifications for. So another part is if you're looking at the position and it says 2 years of acute care experience and you only had 6 months, you will not be considered for this position. So in position get posted, I think right now we have over 500 position up, not because we have a 500 open position, but also because we are in an over hire stage. So we're trying to hire more nurses than we actually need because we do anticipate a lot of nursing going on a leave of absence with the new Massachusetts law. So we're trying to prevent that. We are posting a lot of position and a lot of that is newly licensed for newly licensed nurses. It would specifically say so, or you look something as no previous experience required, no specific experience required, any experience that is preferred. Those positions, you can definitely apply to those positions as well. If something is required and you just think that, what if it works, I'm still gonna apply. Unfortunately, it will not. We do not consider resumes that do not meet the qualifications. Those resumes do not even make to the recruitment part. So it is very important to read requirements and only apply to the position that you actually have qualifications for. With that being said, do apply to as many positions as possible. You would never ever seem to us as someone who is very desperate. There is no such a thing as a very desperate candidate. So please do apply to all 500 if you meet the qualifications. please do not get discouraged if you're not even contacted. It's most likely because of the internals. And last thing that I want to say, if I were a newly licensed nurse, I would most likely look at the position that are less, maybe like less comfortable in terms of schedule, maybe overnight positions, maybe overnight weekends position. Those have a very little interest between internal candidates. So it's much easier to get a position that is like an overnight position if you're external and with a no or little experienced nurse. And of course, once you internal, because of the M&A, you can switch your department next day, literally next day. So there is no requirement that you have to stay at one department for 6 months or 3 months. You can change the departments literally next day. And if you are internal at that point, you will be looked at your resume. So you will be first to be considered for this role. We are right now negotiating with the M&A, so things can change once you graduate and come work with the Brigham. But as of today, those are the rules. And about when is the best time to apply, after you pass your NCLEX. So we are not hiring nurses who did not pass their NCLEX or who do not have a license posted on a website. But if you know that you definitely passed and they promised you that the license is going to be up on a website within 1 week or 10 days, this is a good time to start applying. From offer acceptance until your start date, it is 21 days. So let's say if you pass the exam, you can start looking for a job. And then if you get an offer, you still have 21 days for the license to be up. But if the license is not up, the start date will have to be pushed. So we do not have that room to have someone start without a license. We used to during the COVID time, but not anymore.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Can I say something? This is Cheryl from Hartford Healthcare. Pay attention when you apply. Like for instance, they all say float pool. Just apply like maybe once or twice. Don't apply to all the float pool roles, because the same recruiter is looking at your name like over and over and over again. If you can apply different locations, that's fine. But I wouldn't encourage anyone for St. Vincent's to, apply to all the same, all the different roles out there, because we do see them. So just pay attention to the titles and the, the title in the unit, so and what you're applying for. And we also look for just like note your clinicals on there and just make sure it's in a good structure. It comes through properly. I think that's really important, because if your resume doesn't come through, I really try to reach out to the candidates and say, can you, resend your resume with some information? Or I might say you didn't attach it at all. I can't send you if I don't have anything to go with. So you just need to have something on there that makes sense to me so I can send over to the hiring manager. We're all looking for RNs, but we need to make sure if you don't pay attention to detail on your resume, then how are you going to pay attention to your patients? So we really want people who pay attention to detail.
And I would like to add something too. It's echo Cheryl for Yale New Haven Health specifically. We don't encourage you to apply to any number of positions. I can speak specifically for Bridgeport, and actually I believe at Yale New Haven there is a general posting as well. I handle all of the nurse recruitment for Bridgeport Hospital, both campuses. We typically post what we call an evergreen posting, which is for new graduate nurses. And it literally says new graduate nurses, May grads maybe, and we put that up early in the year. And so where I'm concerned, really, I just need you to apply to that. And we do get through everyone, my partner Laura and I. But the one thing I do encourage you to do is we do have specialty residencies, and those are very competitive. And I do also encourage you to apply for those so that we can at least see that that specialty may be of interest. And where the resume is concerned, one of the biggest things I've seen that I really encourage you to be careful about is using an appropriate email address. Most new graduates use their school address, which is great. Just make sure it's an address that you do have access to after you're finished with school. If it is a personal email address, that's fine. Just please make sure it's professional. Believe me, we've all seen all different sorts of emails. And if you have an inappropriate email, that's the first thing we see on the top of your resume, you will not get looked at. And for Yale, and Chuck will agree to this, we see close to 400,000 applications. There's about 13 partners who handle the nurse recruitment. So all we ask is patience. I know we do get through everyone, and you're always encouraged to reach out directly as well. I've actually seen some familiar faces on here from our student nurse internships. So, you know, you can certainly reach out directly, I'm sure, to any one of these health systems and partners on this call. So that was just my 2 cents.
Are there any, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to add that I agree with what all the other recruiters were saying. I think that it's really important for your resume to stand out for the right reasons, not because of misspelling, a issue with formatting. My biggest pet peeve lately is people don't put phone numbers that we can reach them at. And, make sure that if you put a cell phone, that you clear your mailbox, that we can get to you. And also, I couldn't agree more with the appropriate email. We've all seen, dancingqueen.com and crazy emails where you're like, this is really not such a professional email to have at the top of your page. I also would encourage you to put any, the well-rounded resume is great to have. Any other healthcare positions that you've had, or if you haven't worked in healthcare, any customer service jobs, if you were a waitress, if you were a babysitter, a resident assistant at your college, really anything where you have to deal with customer service and, or healthcare is great to put on a resume. Also, extracurricular activities like your Student Nurse Association, if you volunteer, those are great things to put on your resume. I also would encourage you really to look at the spell check. You'd be surprised how many people misspell things on their resumes. And also, if you add a cover letter, to make sure it matches the position that you're applying for, and also the site that you're applying for. For me, there's nothing worse than getting somebody apply online where they put, dear Yale New Haven when it's for Northwell, that kind of thing. So really important, goes to attention to detail.
Thank you. I'd like to turn it over now. We have about 20 minutes left. I'd like to turn it over to any of the students. So if you would like to ask your question to one or all of the panelists, feel free to either unmute yourself at this point or drop something in the chat box, and my colleague Annie will be checking that as we speak and raising those questions.
I have a question just for anyone that wants to answer. So we obviously have to be licensed and have passed our NCLEX to start working as a nurse. But when we are applying between like February, May timeframe, and we haven't even registered for the NCLEX yet, I know when I was applying for like PCT jobs, it usually asked for a certification for like a CNA. And I'm assuming that's how it goes for nursing positions as well. How do we go through that if we don't actually have the license to post yet?
So at Hackensack Meridian Health, you can absolutely apply to our residency program without having your license. So don't get discouraged if you don't have it. We just recommend you apply closer to graduation and or taking your NCLEX. But I go through every resume. If you don't have your NCLEX scheduled yet, I'll call you. Your first communication will be with myself. So I'll take that information down when you plan on taking it, and I kind of keep you on a short list. You're on my radar. You're not going to slip through the cracks. So don't feel discouraged to apply if you don't have that license yet.
At St. Vincent's, if you apply to a graduate nurse position, it is assumed you do not have your license. It will not ask for a license number. Once you take your boards and pass them, we move you out of that graduate nurse position into a registered nurse position.
Thank you.
So at Yale New Haven, if you were applying for a position like I have actually already hired 5 December grads. So they haven't even finished their schooling yet. They don't have their ATT to test. They don't have any of that. They can't start unless they have their license. But we have moved to offer. I have scheduled their pre-employment physical. They don't have to look for any other jobs. They know that they're solid. They just have to pass their boards. So you could apply to Yale New Haven Health, you could interview, we could go through the whole process. It's just you can't start unless you have that license.
Just want to piggyback off that and just add one thing. With Yale New Haven Health, you can start with an unofficial Pearson VUE Pass result. You do have to have your license before you can do hands-on clinical, but most have their license number active when they start.
Thank you. Ellen, Jane, anything to add to that?
Yes, so for Brigham, we would not consider, if you have a license, you would not be considered for the job. So if you pass your NCLEX, you can put it on your resume if applying and be like, maybe license anticipated in 10 days or something like this, and maybe like put anticipation date on it for a recruiter to have a look at it, but just make sure that you know that not that you just sit through the exam, but you actually passed it. This way you will be considered, but we do not offer any jobs to students at this point as a nursing grad students, I mean. So the residency program at the Brigham is something that you start after your official start date with the unit. I figured that might be not the same for different hospitals just now. So at Brigham, you do start it after you start. And it's pretty much kind of just to help you get the same pace as everyone else on a floor. That's more a residency program for. Yes.
Okay, and you can apply definitely before you have your license, but you can't start until we have a posted license number. So, I just really encourage everybody to make a plan for your NCLEX, take a review class and get it out of the way. You want to just get it over with. I know that I'm sure through Sacred Heart, you have a review class. Make a plan and for your NCLEX and take it.
Great, thank you. Do we have any other questions?
I had a question about.
I see a question in the chat box. So just so everybody knows, all of our seniors are 100% vaccinated. This truly is a fantastic senior class. But Jade had a question. Will boosters be required? I don't think so, but I'll let the panel answer.
At St. Vincent's at this time, boosters are not required.
Same for Yale New Haven.
Same for Hackensack.
I'm sorry, could you say the question one more time? My sound went out.
Yes, the COVID vaccinations are required and this class is perfect. They're 100%. But are boosters mandatory at this point in your facility?
No.
Okay. Ellen, I wanted to know if singing in the choir is mandatory.
No, it's not mandatory.
I saw that. I haven't been following it, but I saw that. That is just fabulous. I've been meaning to email you about that.
Thank you.
For those of you who don't know, their nurses got on America's Got Talent, and it was I don't even know how many, Ellen, how many
18.
nurses?
18.
And the first thing that went through my head was who's staffing the floor while they're on America's Got Talent.
And I saw them and they were fabulous.
Yeah, it was beautiful. I know you guys have a bunch of questions. Any questions? Feel free to unmute.
So we do have a question in the chat box.
Okay. Just turn off for a second.
Is it the question, how soon after you interview will you be notified? Is that the question you're speaking to? Okay, so I can start with that. It really depends. It depends on the department. It depends on if it's a group, like for instance, for our ED residency, the managers will hire typically after the interviews and come to a consensus on a decision because there's only so many spots. If it's a position specific to a particular floor, the managers are pretty good about feedback somewhat quickly, but it can vary a little bit. I would say just be a little patient, but it's usually, unless again, it's for a residency, it can take a little bit longer, but usually within a week or two, I would say.
At St. Vincent's, you may know when you leave the interview or that we're going to proceed to an offer. There's a reference check that has to be done, or it would be within a week.
I want to say something about that too, so I'm piggybacking on what Peggy just said. I don't know, this is a new trend that I've noticed with recent grads or just people interview in general. If you interview, please expect the recruiter or someone to get back to you. Look at your emails, or something. So when we're trying to reach out to you for references and et cetera, that there's a response. I've noticed this a lot with a lot of positions. People interview and then you're trying to get a reference and you're calling them, you're texting them, you're emailing them, and you're like, what happened? You know, so please, if you interview with any organization, just keep an eye out for look at your emails, look at your phone or something in case we love you and want to have you start with our organization. So please do that. That's really, really important. You'd be surprised how many people have to chase down with text messages. It's just, I don't know, it's kind of funny, but it's just interesting too. Like people just don't respond after they interview. It's just an interesting time.
You are 100% correct. And I think we're so in tuned into not answering phone numbers that we don't recognize, but we actually tell all the students during your interview period, you answer all those calls, whether it's spam or not, because we've had students in a panic who they missed the recruiter call offering them the job because they didn't recognize the number. So they actually know that. Thank you.
A lot also is depending upon you, students. We know that you're doing a million things at once. And so we are trying to be sensitive to your time limits. But, I had recently a student who called me every day because I'm very free in giving my number out. And finally, the manager finished her interviews and I offered the student the role, the position, and then it took the student a week to get back to me. So sometimes the ball is in your court as well. We send references right away. So during your initial screening, we get you that reference link, and then it's really your responsibility to get those references completed. So while you're waiting to actually come in and interview, or during the interview process, the references are being done. The background, that is a little bit of a slippery slope because it does take a little bit more time. But generally speaking, you could hear from us within a week or so. But get back to us because we want you as to be part of the team, but there's not the reciprocation of the return calls.
Thank you. We have a question in the chat box.
So that's
Turn off your sound.
okay. How has COVID affected the orientation process for new hires?
I can probably start answering that. So new employee orientation, which is the first day of any orientation for any role at the Brigham, is online now. It used to be in person, but now it is online. For a very long time, almost a whole COVID period, we still had nurses to come in to do their M&A benefits presentation in person, but recently we got that online too. So the only thing is changed that the first day will be online, but everything else is going to be in person. So first week since you start is going to be new employee orientation. You will be doing your EPIC training. You will be doing your skills training and training required by your department or union. And then after the first week, it's going to be a floor training, which was not affected by COVID.
At St. Vincent's, it is a remote orientation. You have your HR orientation on Monday, remote nursing orientation on Tuesday, and then you do come into our nursing professional development on Wednesday for these in-person skills. And then on Thursday would be the EPIC training. After that, everything is in person and you begin orienting on the floor.
I have
That
a
is, go ahead.
Sorry. I was wondering, like, if you got a job offer before you accepted, if you were allowed to like come to the floor and like view it before. I don't know with COVID if you do that or if you ever did that, but I know one of my like instructors suggested doing that before you like accept any job offer. So I was wondering about that.
You can certainly come in and shadow. Our
Yeah.
COVID numbers are very low now. Today we had 3 in-house, so no, you could certainly shadow.
That's the same for Yale New Haven, although I can speak specifically for Bridgeport. The manager does need to get their director approval, and it's typically for only candidates that are like one of the final candidates for the role.
Yeah, it's really up to the site, how they handle it. Some are doing in person, some are doing virtual interviews, depending on what's happening.
Unfortunately, not with the Brigham. So until you had your occupational health appointment, which is after the offer letter, you cannot come in on site.
Thank you.
So we've received a few questions in the chat box. One of the questions that just came through is someone is looking at becoming a new nurse within your health system. How do you handle their interest in going back to school with regards to juggling work and going back to school for additional certifications or degrees?
I think continuing education at Northwell, it's part of our magnet culture, and it's really important that we support nursing students who want to go back to school or get certified in special courses. So we, do a lot to help them with their schedule and also in paying for certain things too.
At St. Vincent's, we have a very generous tuition reimbursement. With the float department, given the size of the department, I am able to offer a lot of flexibility with schedules to work around a school schedule. So it's not a problem. We encourage people to pursue advanced degrees.
This Hackensack Meridian also has a tuition reimbursement program, and our team will work closely with you regarding your schedule so you can go back to school. We strongly encourage it.
And Yale New Haven Health would be identical to everyone else's comments. We do have immediate tuition reimbursement as part of our benefit package. We also have immediate medical and dental so that there's no longer a grace period for either of those. And you really work closely with your manager in terms of the schedule and how flexible that person could be. Just remember that there are 2 sides of the equation. So if you would want and need every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday off, maybe then part of your role would be to try to help out more on the weekends or something like that, so that there's a give and take.
Oh, I just wanted to say, in addition, the amount of tuition reimbursement you receive depends on the number of hours you work. So if you work 36 hours, you get one amount. You work 24 hours, you get another amount. I also want to say for St. Vincent's, we do offer, we do have partnerships with some different schools and different universities. If you were interested in going back to school, like for instance, if you have your ASN now or you want to get your master's, it really depends, but we do have some partnerships where we offer some discounts for individuals who want to go back to, who want to further their education.
Thank you. One of the other questions that sort of piggybacks on that is if they're in a specialty unit, are certification courses offered through your organization, or is that considered, again, similar to additional schooling and degrees?
You basically want to get a certification to the tuition reimbursement program? So
The question
yeah.
is just certification courses being offered through the specialty units that they may be working on.
I think it's a combination of both.
Yeah.
Yes.
I know through, like, for instance, for our ED residency program, through the residency and departmental orientation piece, it starts mostly classroom, and then you need to get your emergency certifications before you even start clinicals. If you're moving along as a nurse and you're looking to get, let's say, certified as a medical surgical nurse, the education team, I think, is happy to lead you in the right direction, and that's typically offered through more of a tuition reimbursement type of program. But then, like with Yale New Haven Health, once you get those certifications, there also can be incentives depending on the certification and area.
At St. Vincent's, some of our units do require that you get certified within a certain amount of time. Our orthopedics, which is the Connecticut Orthopedic Institute, when you do sign on with them, you commit to get certified in orthopedics. If you join our oncology group, you do sign on that you will become chemo certified and oncology certified.
Thank you. And it looks like the last question that we have, but again, if any of the students have questions, please keep them coming. But Julie has asked, do any of your hospitals have a student loan forgiveness program?
We don't.
We don't.
We are working to develop one at St. Vincent's Hartford Health.
I do apologize, but I might not know the correct answer on this, but I do believe we have that. It is because we are a nonprofit organization. You do have to work 10 years for a nonprofit in order to get your loan forgiven.
Okay, thank you. And are you, any of the hospitals and health systems at this point, offering any type of sign-on bonuses or incentives?
Only for
St.
experienced hires at St. Vincent's.
Yeah. We're
Agreed.
not for new grads.
Same thing at the Brigham.
Yeah, same.
Same.
And with regards to the current nursing shortage, has it had any effect on the length of orientation for any of you?
We did have to change a process a little bit in terms of EPIC. So right now, in addition to our interview process, we ask if you have any EPIC experience, and if you do, you can skip that day of EPIC orientation, or have it a few hours instead of like a full day or two. So that would, I would say, that would be the only change that happened in terms of time of orientation.
At St. Vincent's, it has not affected the orientation. For the float department, it is a 16-week orientation.
Okay, thank you.
Same with Yale New Haven Health. We have not cut the orientation based on the staffing needs. That would really be a disservice to the new employee to have something shortened. And so you don't want to get involved in that. In fact, regardless of where you start your professional practice, make sure it is a nurturing, welcoming environment, and don't settle for less.
It looks like that is all of the questions that we currently have within the chat box. Any additional questions from any of our participants?
I just have a quick question. Which way like to apply do you think would be the best way? Like through a different website like Indeed, or like through the direct hospital system?
For Brigham, it would be definitely on our career website. That's the best way. This is what we check first. And another thing that I should have mentioned, that why is it important to apply to as many positions as you qualify for? Because we have 12 nursing recruiters just at the Brigham, and sometimes same department can have a few recruiters working on that department. So one recruiter may not even see your resume. So it is very important for Brigham candidates to apply to as many positions on our career website.
Say the career website, not through an external. That will give you an opportunity to view all of the different opportunities where, you know, if something isn't posted on LinkedIn, you'll miss out on an opportunity. So I would go to the website, the hospital website.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with that as well.
And I also think that a website gets updated first, I think, across all of them hospitals. So if any position gets posted, this is like most recent place. to see an update on a position. And also, at least at the Brigham, if you apply to a position but it was filled or canceled, you will receive a communication if you apply through the website, but you would not if you apply through any of other external websites.
Perfect.
Thank you.
With regards to a question that just came through, if someone is interested in a specialty, do you recommend that they apply only to that department, or should they keep more of an open mind and apply to all positions that may be posted? Again, I know we talked a little bit about it, but with regards to that specialty piece, I know through the pandemic and some of the nursing shortages, I jokingly have called them unicorn positions, but those labor and delivery for the new nurses or NICU, things that never used to be available, have started to surface more. Do you recommend that they would, if that's their area of interest, that they apply directly to that, or stick to more of the new grad opportunities coming through?
I think they should apply to what they're interested in.
Absolutely
I think,
agree.
yeah, I don't see any issue with that,
But the
especially if
other
they'll take them.
I think I agree with that, but I also think that specialties are not going away, and that, there's lots of means to an end, so that if you wanted pediatrics and you couldn't get it right away, it's okay to start in med-surg and transition to pediatrics later on. There's no rule that says you have to start in one place. And the great thing about nursing is there's so many choices, so that, you can go into different specialties or transition from one to another. So just be open.
May I say that last year I had hired into the float department 49 new nurses. Most of them were graduate nurses. And by the end of the year, 19 of them had transitioned out of the float department into a department that they found was their calling. I've had people leave to go to labor and delivery. I had several of my people go up to ICU, PCU. I had a couple go to the ED, and that with the float department, you get exposed to all of these areas, and they found their specialty and they transfer out. And then Cheryl and I start again hiring more people, but we are a pipeline to feed these other departments in the hospital.
I'm going to say to the opposite end of the spectrum, though, because I think over the years, a big question we've also gotten is it okay to start in a specialty, or should we be starting in a more general role? I think everyone thinks a little bit differently about that. But as long as you are getting a new grad residency program in that specialty, if you know you want to go into the ED, there is nothing wrong with starting there. And same for even labor and delivery. It's you just want to make sure you're getting the right support. But again, with speaking to what everybody said, there's also no problem with starting in something more general and working your way toward that area.
Now, and I talked to my daughter who's a nurse in school, and she's like, oh, I want to work in this department. No, I don't want to work in that one. They know, like, you guys know what you like and what you don't like. So we want you to be happy, want to retain you. So, if you can't get in, it's true, try for, whatever you can, especially if you like Hartford Healthcare. But, if you really like labor and delivery, try for it. If you like, observation, go for it. If you like, float pool, you can, do it. I mean, we see it all the time. So we welcome you all.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions before we wrap up today? Well, on behalf of the Center for Career and Professional Development, Dr. Goncalves, and the nursing students here, we just want to thank each and every one of you for your wealth of knowledge, for sharing with our students. And to the students, please know that you can still use and utilize all of the Center for Career and Professional Development, both while you're a student, but also once you are an alum. Schedule an appointment through Handshake. We're happy to help with those mock interviews, help you with those job search requests that you have, as well as resume cover letters. And again, just want to thank everybody for your patience this second annual virtual nursing forum, but also for all of your patience with the technical difficulties that we were experiencing here. I know by this point, I feel like we should have everything under control, but I'm glad you're all flexible in handling some of these snafus that happen on our side. But thank you. and hope to see you all next year and in person.
Good luck, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck, everyone.
Thank you.